We've reached the final presentation in the series, Plateau 7, Category Ownership. And I want to start this one differently, because Plateau 7 isn't really a commercial milestone, it's a leadership milestone. And the thinking required to get here and to stay here is fundamentally different from any of the previous plateaus. But before we get there, let me quickly acknowledge something. If you've watched all 7 of these presentations, you've done something valuable. You've invested time in understanding the actual structure of your business's growth. Not the surface symptoms, not the quick fixes, but the underlying architecture of how businesses like yours grow and where they get stuck. That understanding is rare and it matters, because you can't navigate somewhere you can't see clearly. Today we're starting at Plateau 7, Category Ownership. If you haven't watched the previous 6 videos, then I recommend that you do before beginning this lesson. There are no quick wins. If you jump to the end of Plateau 7 and think the answers will all be here, you'll be disappointed. What I've built is a systematic journey designed to take any founder-led business through to market leader. Each stage follows the other. So, Plateau 7, what does it look like? You define the category, not just operate in it, define it. You set the rules. You establish what the standard is, and the market measures itself against you rather than the other way around. Industry standards reference you. When people in your market talk about how to do things well, they use your language, your frameworks, your approach as the benchmark. Competitors follow your innovations. And when you introduce something new, the market takes notice. Others adapt, adopt, or find ways to claim they were doing it first. Media references you as the authority. Journalists writing about your sector reach out to you for comment. Podcasters want you as a guest. Conference organizers want you on the stage. And acquisition opportunities, partnership approaches, and expansion conversations arrive without you having to chase them, because category leaders get found. Let me draw the distinction clearly between Plateau 6 and Plateau 7, because they can look similar from the outside. At Plateau 6, you're incomparable. Clients choose you, and competitors can't match what you do. That's a significant achievement and one that most founder-led businesses never reach. At Plateau 7, you own the category. You're not just incomparable, you're the definition. Competitors measure themselves against you. You set the standard everyone else follows. The difference isn't scale, it's influence. At Plateau 6, you're winning, and at Plateau 7, you're leading. One is commercial success, the other is commercial legacy. In 2020, when we sold and merged with our largest competitor, I want to be honest about what that moment meant, because the myth of the entrepreneurial exit is usually about personal wealth, and that's not the story I'm going to tell you. What the acquisition actually represented was category ownership confirmed. We hadn't been acquired because we were available. We'd been acquired because we'd built something that the market's largest player had decided it was better to own than to compete against. We had over 26% market share, we had an e-learning platform they couldn't replicate, and we had client relationships built over 15 years of long-tail thinking. We had a brand that stood for something specific in our sector. The competitor who had approached me at the conference years earlier wanting us all to raise prices, his business wasn't part of that conversation because he hadn't built category leadership. He'd built a service business that could be replaced. We had built something that defined what good looked like in our market. That's the distinction between Plateau 6 and Plateau 7. At Plateau 6, you're incomparable. At Plateau 7, the market decides you're the reference point and it acts accordingly. It took 13 years to take a small consultancy to that outcome. It wasn't a straight line. There were crises, wrong turns, difficult decisions, and moments of genuine uncertainty. But every decision made with a long tail in mind. Every time we chose the relationship over the margin, the system over the shortcut, the right client over any client, compounded into something that outlasted the founder. That's what you're building. Not a job, not a clever business, something worth the climb. The "is this me" moments. Other companies in our space reference what we do. You're talked about as the market leaders, setting the standard that everyone aspires to achieve and work towards. Journalists and podcasters come to us as the expert voice. You are the authority, the key person of influence. Your PR and thought leadership works for you. We've been approached about acquisition or partnership. As a leader, you may be approached by other firms looking to sell to you, or that maybe even want to acquire you. Take your time and seek advice when this happens. Due diligence is an extremely important process, and it can be a major distraction. More commonly, you'll be approached by other firms who see your market leading position and want to partner with you. And this usually looks attractive to them, more so than you. Again, it can be a major distraction, so make sure any partnership meets your strategic objectives and you are clear on the value gained. We're not just a best option with a reference point. This is attractive, but watch out for complacency. When you set the standard, it only spurs others on towards trying to match it. If you take your eye off the ball, then you risk losing that market leading position if the competition catches up or even overtakes you. People describe what we do using our language. Now, this is not uncommon with market leaders, and it's something that you can develop and build greater brand equity and mind share from. So how does category ownership get built? It's not overnight and it's not by accident. Distinctive positioning at Plateau 6 has to become widely known, not just well known to your existing clients, but known in your sector, referenced by people who've never worked with you, talked about as the example of how something should be done, consistent innovation that others follow. You can't own a category by standing still. You have to keep moving, introducing new thinking, new approaches, new tools in a way that keeps you ahead of those trying to catch up. Public thought leadership that shapes the conversation. Writing, speaking, publishing, sharing frameworks and ideas that influence how people in your market think. This is what a book does, what a content series does, what a body of work over years builds. Proof at scale, results that others can't dispute or dismiss. Case studies, testimonials, outcomes that are verifiably significant. The kind of track record that makes the claim of category leadership credible rather than aspirational. And a brand that exists beyond the founder. This is the structural marker of Plateau 7. The business has its own identity, reputation, and authority that isn't entirely dependent on one person. The business can outlast the founder. Here's the question that changes at Plateau 7, and I think it's worth saying plainly. At every previous plateau, the question was, how do we build a better business? More efficient, more scalable, more differentiated, more valuable. At Plateau 7, the question becomes, what are we building this for? Not operationally, strategically. What's the end state? What does success look like in 10 years? Is this a business you grow and pass the next generation of leadership? Is it a business you eventually sell to a trade buyer, to a private equity firm, to a competitor who wants to acquire your category leadership? Is it a platform you use to expand into adjacent markets? Is it a legacy you build and protect? These are not just financial questions. They're questions about what you want the next chapter to look like, as a founder and as a leader. And you need to be asking them consciously at Plateau 7, because the decisions you make now will shape what those options actually look like. What does staying at Plateau 7 require? Because it's not just about getting there, it's about maintaining it. Succession planning. Who leads when you step back? Not if, when. Every Plateau 7 business eventually faces this question, and the founders who plan for it early create better outcomes than those who wait until it's urgent. Strategic choices, growth, acquisition, partnership, IPO, exit. These are real decisions that Plateau 7 founders have to make. None of them is automatically right. All of them require clear thinking about what you've built, what it's worth, and what comes next. Legacy thinking. What does this business stand for beyond its revenue? What does it mean to the people it serves, the industry it operates in, the team it employs? Category leaders shape their sector. That's a responsibility as well as an achievement. Next generation leadership development. The business needs depth, not just strong people at the top, but a culture and pipeline of leadership that can carry the business forward without depending on its original founders. And category stewardship, because categories don't stay owned without effort. The market catches up, competitors learn, new entrants arrive. The work of maintaining category leadership is continuous, not a destination you reach and then stop. Let's remind ourselves of the full journey through the 7 plateaus. If you've not watched all the videos in this series, then I recommend you work through them on this channel. They are designed to be watched in order. We've gone from the startup, where it's important to prove the concept, finding product market fit and refinement at Plateau 2, before arriving at the operational and systematic levels of Plateaus 3 and 4. This is where most founder-led businesses get stuck, not because they're not good businesses, but because the founder themselves becomes the bottleneck to further growth. The founder is involved in every decision, and this becomes a constraint that blocks the ability to scale, and it's simple mathematics. There are only so many hours in a day that a founder can operate. Once that time is maxed out, then there is no more time to dedicate to growth and scale. Once you accept that this is the business, which is the engine and not you, then those shackles start to come off. You can move into Plateau 5 and build the systems, processes, and frameworks that run the business without you. When that starts to happen, the founder has renewed energy, time, and focus to break the business through the comparison trap. Identify what makes them truly unique before they reach the heady heights of market leader, setting the standard. It's not easy to work your way through each plateau, but it is achievable. Before I close out this series, I want to give you the honest picture of where most founders watching this are sitting. Most founder-led businesses in the £2 to £15 million range are at Plateau 3 or Plateau 4. The busy trap are almost there. They have real capability, real clients, real potential, and they're stuck, not because of a fatal flaw, but because of missing infrastructure, incomplete positioning, and the founder bottleneck that hasn't been fully broken. That's not a failure, it's a starting point, and the gap between Plateau 3 or 4 and Plateau 6 or 7 typically takes 12 to 24 months of deliberate, systematic commercial work. Not luck, not a pivot, not a brilliant hire that solves everything overnight. Deliberate work done consistently, built on a clear diagnosis of what's actually missing. There are 3 ways I work with founders to close this gap. The first is a discovery engagement, 4 to 8 weeks of structured diagnosis, stakeholder mapping, root cause analysis, clear picture of exactly where you are, what's missing, and what needs to happen in what order. This is for founders who know something isn't working, but can't quite identify what it is. The output is clarity and a prioritized roadmap. The second is a fractional commercial director engagement, so hands-on commercial leadership, 1 to 2 days a week for 12 to 18 months, building the infrastructure, developing the team, coaching the founder through the hardest part of letting go. This is the path from Plateau 3 or 4 to Plateau 5 or 6. The third is a proposition architect engagement, 3 to 6 months of focused repositioning work, reframing, redefining, building the differentiated position that escapes the comparison trap. This is for businesses that already have solid infrastructure but are stuck in the commercial ceiling, competing on price when they shouldn't be. All 3 start in the same place, an honest conversation about where the business actually is. Thank you for watching the full series. If you've watched all 7 of these presentations, you now have a framework for understanding your business that most founders don't. You know the 7 stages, you know the warning signs at each one, and you know what breaking through each plateau requires. And you know where you are, or at least you have enough to make a better guess than you did before. The question now is, what do you do with it? If you haven't done it, there's a free assessment tool on addoli.com. 20 questions, takes about 10 minutes, and it gives you a clear read on which plateau you're at and where the gaps are. I'd encourage you to take it. And if it raises questions, or if anything in the series has resonated, connect with me on LinkedIn or reach out through the site. The path is clear, the work is hard, both of these things are true. But the businesses I've watched go from Plateau 3 to Plateau 6, from the busy trap to the incomparable business, they didn't do it by working harder. They did it by building smarter. That's the whole point of this. I'm Tom. Thank you for listening. Good luck.